lovely lot, welcome back to my channel. Happy Wednesday. This week I'm back with a new video. We're going to be deep diving into every single book I read in the month of March and all of my thoughts. March was an absolutely exceptional reading month, like top tier reads back to back to back, one after another. There was no end in sight, and I'm really excited to share with you guys all of my thoughts and how I got on with some really anticipated reads. So grab yourself a drink, let's get cozy, and let's talk about my March reading wrap up. So I read 11 books in the month of March, and initially it did feel like I was having a little bit of a slower month, but that's because some of these reads were 700-page kind of books. And they take time, for me anyway, they take serious amounts of time. So let's talk about them, shall we? We started the month off so strong. Really and truly, we set the bar for March because we read First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. Now, I have rambled on to you guys about how excited I was for this. I had good thoughts, I had good feelings going into this. And I'm still thinking about this nearly a month down the line. I don't even know if you can see because it's got sprayed edges, but I annotated this book so much. There were so many beautiful, gorgeous moments, and okay, let me just organize and prioritize my thoughts and tell you everything. So I'm going to start this off by saying, if you are looking for a book that feels like a 2000s rom-com movie in book form, then you need to pick this up. This gave me Sleepless in Seattle vibes, and I was just living, eating, and breathing for every single second of this book. When I tell you guys, this is one of my favorite romances of all time ever. Oh, chef's kiss. Yeah, I don't know what any of that meant, but yeah. So first of all, we've got Aidan, who is a radio host for a romance hotline. He's kind of given up on the idea of love until one evening when he's working his radio hotline shift. A young girl calls on behalf of her mum, and the call goes viral, and that kind of leads to Aidan and Lucy's paths crossing. And the book proceeds from there, and it is just absolutely brilliant. Like, these two as individuals are amazing, but together they are an absolute powerhouse. Our FMC, she's a mechanic. I freaking loved that. And she's the kind of woman who knows how to keep a man on his toes. She knows what she wants, and she's not willing to settle. And I loved her. I really, really bloody loved her so much. The chemistry, the tension, the banter, it's electric, it sizzles, it lives off the page. And the entire time you are just giggling, screaming, kicking your feet, and never wanting this book to end. That was the kind of experience I had with this. Guys, I cannot recommend this enough. I loved it, I loved it, I loved it. Next up was the highly anticipated The Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. And this is the conclusion to the duology. And obviously a new release as well, but the things that I'd seen from ARC readers, from people who had got advanced reader copies of this, people were loving it and having a great time. So I obviously read The Crimson Moth back in February, and it quickly became a new favourite of mine. So I was really hopeful and excited for this, and this just didn't disappoint in any way, shape or form. It continued with the same kind of pacing. It was action-packed, filled with twists and turns, and that slow burn that was simmering all the way through book one continued with book two, and you were just rooting for our main characters so much. I could not have been more happier to have been back in this world, and I really just think it was such a beautiful conclusion to the duology. I ever so slightly marginally preferred book one to book two, but this was still an absolute knockout. Then this book had been calling to me for a little bit, so we picked it up, we dove back into the Boys of Tommen world. Book one and book two of Boys Tommen are based on Sharon and Johnny's story. Book 3, which is this one, and book 4 are based on Joey and Aoife's story. Saving 6 is the equivalent to Binding 13, if you will, in the sense that it's the first part of these characters' stories. So I wasn't really too sure how I was going to find Joey and Aoife's story, how it was going to compare to Binding 13 and Keeping 13. I love them so much. I preferred this to Binding 13. Like, if Binding 13 and Saving 6 are on the same kind of equivalent, I prefer this so much more, so much more, which I was surprised at because I'd seen people hadn't loved this as much as they had the first two. They said this was a little bit slower, that it lagged, that they weren't as invested. Oh my god, I could not have been more invested if I tried. This book had me hook, line, and sinker. It is devastation. Physical devastation. Like, I had no words. I was literally and physically gobsmacked, speechless, turning pages so quick, but also so terrified for my heart and soul, but also so terrified for these characters and what they were having to endure and the pain that they were living through and experiencing on the daily, and completely in awe of Joey and how he just carries on and how he just continues to endure day after day after day after day with no respite. No one's giving him a break. No one's giving this poor guy a breather. And I just desperately want to save him. I desperately want to save him, and I desperately want like happiness for him, and it's painful. It really, really, truly is painful. But then I was also so completely in awe of Aoife and the woman that she is. Like, she's a girl in these books, but she's a woman. Do you know what I mean? Like, the strength that she has in order to be able to go through what she goes through with Joey is just like, wrap your heart and soul in bandages and band-aids before you go into this, because God, it hurts. It hurts so much. But it is honestly one of just read it. Just please read it. I've said this a million times, but if you're new here and you haven't heard about my experience with the Boys from Tom and series, didn't think I was going to love it. I thought they were going to be too big. I didn't think I was going to be able to resonate with the ages of these characters. Could not be more wrong. So if, like me, you have them thoughts, do not let that put you off. There's a reason why these get the reputation they get. There is a reason. There is a reason. And I just think they are books that will stay with me for the rest of my life, and I just can't wait to carry on with this series. It really is god tier, truly. Then we kind of went off peak a little bit because I was not really feeling like any of the books on my TBR. I was doing classic mood reader me situation. Did I end up getting books off Kindle Unlimited when my TBR is already stacked ridiculously high? Yes, I did, but we're not here to judge, okay? We're not here to judge. Judgment-free zone. Yeah, we're just gonna move past that and get to how I felt about these books. I started this duology right here. Feathers So Vicious by Liv Zander is book 1, and Shadows So Cruel is book 2. This is a dark, romantic fantasy. Emphasis on the dark. Really, truly check the triggers if you're thinking about giving this a read. Book 1, 5 stars. 5 frigging stars. Surprised me so much. I loved it. It is really dark, scrumptiously, deliciously so. The MMC is morally black. There's no getting away from that. I absolutely have such a weakness for a morally black MMC. So if he's morally black, I'm already invested. I'm already there. And the boxes were getting ticked well and truly. This is also why I choose. So if you like any of these things that I'm describing, you are gonna eat this up. It also kind of gave me To Bleed a Crystal Bloom vibes mixed with the Bonds That Tie series. Had a little bit of those sprinkled in there. They were kind of the vibes, and I absolutely loved both of those. So giving those two things combined, I was like, I am having the time of my life. This is dark romantic fantasy in all its glory. This duology is about a human girl. She is caught between warring kingdoms. And one of the kingdoms is a human kingdom, the other kingdom is a shifter kingdom, and they shift into ravens. So that whole concept is unique in itself, really refreshing, really enjoyed that aspect of these books. Book 1 and book 2, equally amazing, loved. Cannot recommend this duology enough. I consumed this in its entirety, and I need more people to read this so I can talk about it with them, because blew my mind. Then I read Summer in the City by Alex Astor. Now this is Alex's debut romance novel. How I felt about Lightlark was a little bit middle of the road, so I wasn't too sure how I was gonna get on with this book. I immediately started reading this and could not physically put it down. Had me in such a chokehold. I was just literally having, and I know I've said this about a lot of the books, but I really was having the time of my life with this. It surprised me so much because it's fake dating, billionaire romance, those kind of things, which normally I'm like, yeah, I enjoy, but this I enjoyed. I enjoyed. There were so many moments where I was reading this and I was literally like, oh my god, these two together. I was literally like, I personally love the dynamic between these two. I felt like the chemistry and the tension really, really sizzled. Since reading this, I have seen other reviews where people have said they didn't like the FMC as much. I personally loved the FMC. She was a grumpy sunshine kind of FMC, which I ate up. I was like, yeah, give me more of those. But she's really hyper independent. She knows her own mind. She doesn't want anyone to hand her anything. She wants to make her own way in life, and she wants to have built her reputation and her work reputation for herself. She doesn't want to be handed out anything, and I respect her so much for that I was like, yes, you stand on guard. You stand with your morals and your beliefs. I really truly respect you for that. And so for those reasons, I bloody loved her. Loved her. I loved him. He was just like on his knees for her. He was like, I will do anything for this woman. If he is pathetically devoted for her, I want it. I want him feral for her. I want him devoted to her. And he was all of those things. And I was literally eating every single crumb of interaction that we got of them together. Couldn't get enough. Loved it. 4.5 stars. Slay. Then with my Paper Dreams book club over on Fable, we read Heavenly Bodies this month. So many people in the book club gave this 5 stars. It was a really, really enjoyed and popular read for the majority of the members in our book club. I really had a good time with this and I enjoyed it. Wasn't quite a 5-star read for me, but I thought that Imani created such a beautiful and detailed and intricate world that I just really didn't want to put down or leave. And the detailings that she used just made everything feel that little bit more magical, that little bit more transported, and I was completely convinced of this world that she had created. I thought the ending was brilliant and I really enjoyed the plot twists. But for me, the thing I wanted a little bit more of was the slow burn. I felt like he fell for her so quickly. There wasn't really a lot of tension. There wasn't really a lot of build up. It was like 1 minute they were enemies, the next second they weren't, and I was like, if it had been a super slow burn and there was loads of tension and it felt like true enemies to lovers, then this would have been a 5-star read for me. But it didn't feel that way, and so because it happened so quickly, I just wasn't as convinced in their romance as what I could have been. Now don't get me wrong, he is the kind of male character who looks for her in every room. He yearns for her, and I am so here for that. And so I was like, yes, I love this aspect of the book. I love this aspect of his character. I need more, and I just need a little bit more slow burn. So I ended up giving this 4 stars. Overall, really enjoyed this book, really enjoyed the concept of this book, and will definitely be reading book 2. Then I finally bloody finished A Sky Beyond the Storm. This took me so much of the month to get through. I just was struggling a little bit. I wasn't as invested as what I'd hoped I would be. And that was just purely because I'd come to the conclusion that the fantasy elements of this book, like jinns, ghouls, ghosts, are not my favourite kind of fantasy styles within a book. And so therefore I just wasn't as invested as I wanted to be. It kind of made me check out a little bit. I know this is a lot of people's favourite in the series. I did really enjoy it still. The last 100 pages in particular were just absolutely incredible. I ended up giving this book 4 stars in the end. The series overall, I do know fully in my heart of hearts that it's a masterpiece. I just didn't have the experience I wanted to with this series, purely just because of the fantasy elements and my own personal taste. So would I recommend this to you guys? Absolutely, definitely give it a try. The found family elements, the unique magic system, the dynamic between all of the characters, and the plot twists, and the heartbreak and the heartache that you go through is amazing. It really, really, truly is. But all I will say is that it's just not one of my all-time favorites, but it still is a really, really good series. And as you guys know, I read Bewitched this month, and I had such conflicting feelings about this because I can so see why people love it. I can so see why it's adored and why people enjoy it and have a great time. For me personally, this was a 3-star read. It did fall a little bit flat. Thought I was gonna love it. I had high expectations and my expectations were not quite met with this. It's fast-paced with witches and magic and spice, all the kind of things that we normally love in a romantasy. But for me, I found myself cringing at times with our FMC, with her dialogue and her interactions. I just was not her biggest fan. I'm sorry. Did I buy into their relationship? No, I didn't entirely buy into their relationship either. And so for those 2 reasons, that is why it kind of fell a little bit flat. I am going to continue on with this series just to see whether things improve, whether things get better from here on out. Book 2 could potentially be amazing, or it could follow the same trajectory. I don't know, but I want to give it the chance that it deserves to have. We finally read City of Gods and Monsters, and it didn't disappoint. It really, truly didn't. I wanted to love this, and I fully love this. It was an absolutely brilliant start to the series. Darian Castle, the man that you are. I mean, I literally said this in my review, but he could fold me like a pretzel and I would have no complaints. Absolutely none, because he is a top tier kind of male main character. What I found really interesting was when I was getting towards the end of this book, in my head I was like, this feels to me like it could be a standalone. I feel as though everything's wrapping up, all of the loose ends are being tied up, and I don't feel like I'm left with a lot of questions. The last maybe couple of chapters, it does give you more questions, but it could very easily have been tied up as a standalone and it would have been very enjoyable. So that being said, I'm really interested to see how the plot and the storyline proceeds in the following books, because I have heard that book 2 and 3 are even better. They are amazing and supposed to be like god tier kind of reads. The plot and the storyline is kind of almost concluded in a way. Kayla, what are you going to do with the storyline and the plot? Where are you going to take us? What's going to happen to the characters? I don't know, but I'm bloody excited. I really enjoyed it. The female main character for me did come across ever so slightly as a little bit juvenile compared to the rest of the characters. But that being said, I wasn't that affected by it as much as what I probably normally would be, because I feel like she's going to go on a huge character development journey and we are going to see her go from strength to strength to strength to strength. And those kind of characters I end up really rooting for and loving. It was the same with Tablita Crystal Bloom. In that series, which is obviously one of my all-time favourite series, she starts off as quite naive, she hasn't had a lot of experience with the world, and it's the same with this female main character. Yeah, the dynamic between the male main character and the female main character is interesting because they are kind of like polar opposites. They bring a lot of different things to the table, and so I was like, oh, I'm intrigued to see how this dynamic plays out between them. I'm excited to see where their relationship goes as the books progress and what happens there. But overall, this was absolutely brilliant. Gave this 4.25 stars. There was a little bit in the middle, like chapter 43 and 44 is not for the faint of heart. Oh my good God, did I cry? Cried like a baby. This has got it all. If you love urban fantasy, if you loved Crescent City, this is for you. People say this is like Crescent City but better. Now, I'm a CC girly through and through to my heart and soul. Love that series, has such a special place in my heart. Do I think, based on book 1, that this is better than Crescent City? No. Crescent City still is pole position for me. You know, this is definitely like a close second, but it's going to take a lot to beat Crescent City. So I'm excited to see how the rest of the books goes and whether that is subject to change. I don't know, but I'm going to keep you guys posted. And then finally, the last book I finished up the month with was actually such a surprise because this has been sat on my physical shelf for so long and I've just put it off and put it off and put it off. And then it was obviously one of the 12 creators picks for this month, and it was Scythe by Neil Schusterman. And I don't know what it was, why I'd been putting it off, why I'd been neglecting this read. But if, like me, this has been on your shelf for a while, you've been snoozing on this read, Snooze no more. This is brilliant. With dystopian books, I always feel like the stakes are that a bit more higher in them because they feel like they could be real. There's a chance that that could be our future in some crazy kind of way. So this world was terrifying and brutal, and it hit so much more harder because of the genre and the nature of the book. And I was literally on the edge of my seat for the entirety of this book. There's no shortage of twists and turns and unpredictability, and the world in which Neil has created is just absolutely genius. Genius. This is a book and probably a series, because I imagine the rest of the books are going to follow a similar trajectory. This is a book that is filled with moments of both shock and tragic sadness, to the point where you're like, oh my god, cannot believe what is happening, what they are being made to endure in this world. It is scary, terrifying, brutal, but brilliant at the same time. Criminal. How long I sat on this one. Don't be like me. Pick this up, read it, because you're in for just a one-of-a-kind kind of reading experience. Yeah, loved. So those are all the books I read in the month of March. An absolutely brilliant corker of a month. I'm so surprised at how good January, February, March has been to me this year in terms of reads. We are knocking it out of the park. I am living for all of these reads and the experiences I'm having, and I really hope that April follows on that trajectory and we can keep all of these amazing epic reads coming. I feel like it kind of reflects me and my reading taste, because as I continue to read and continue on my reading journey, I'm figuring out what I love and what I enjoy, and so it means when I'm picking out reads, I'm kind of like, I've got a better idea of what I'm gonna like, what I'm gonna enjoy, and that just comes with more books that you read. So I feel like my reading taste is definitely getting more defined, but at the same time I'm broadening my horizons too. So we're having a little bit of a unique kind of reading journey, and I am loving it, and I can't wait to see what this month holds for us. That is everything for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I'll be back same time next week with a new video.